Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. We're here at Duke & Duke Gallery, where Peter Schlesinger has his work on view. I'm happy to tell you that today, conductor Jorge Mester and actress Judy Jean Berns will be our guest. Jorge Mester is a renowned conductor who is recognized for his excellence and knowledge in the orchestral work. He has held the position of music director at the Naples, Florida Philharmonic, the Louisville Orchestra, and where I saw him conduct, the Pasadena Civic. He was there with the baton for maybe 25 years or so. As a guest conductor, Maestro Mester has appeared across the United States as well as Europe and the Far East. His passion for new work, new composers, new compositions is beyond belief. He'll tell us about some of that. And he's been teaching conducting. Hello, George.
How are you, Joan?
Good. Tell me how you teach someone to conduct.
Well, the first thing, you teach them how to breathe.
Oh, really?
That's the first thing. Because if you don't breathe, you don't project energy. And also, if you have a player, say an oboist, and you give the oboist a cue, if you go like this, they breathe with you. Plus, the breath also includes the kind of sound that you want to get. Isn't that weird?
It is strange, because I was wondering what kind of skills that someone who wants to be a conductor has to bring to the class.
Well, I mean, you have to start by knowing a lot of music. Okay. Maybe it's even good if you can actually play an instrument really well.
That's what I wondered. Do you have to play an instrument?
Well, I think, how can you make music if you don't play an instrument?
Can one instrument be better than another instrument if you play?
Well, what is very interesting again is that in general, string players become better or more natural conductors than wind players.
And you're a violinist.
And I'm a violinist. But you see, what happens is that wind players are used to breathing in a totally different way from, and so they breathe in a way that is more inward rather than expressive outward. And so you have to teach them a brand new way of breathing in order to conduct.
That's so interesting to me, because I thought you would be teaching phrasing, how to hold the baton.
Well, yeah, you start at the beginning. You know, it's like scales.
Yes. And
you'll be shocked at how many people actually don't breathe. And if you don't breathe, your body is locked up.
So you taught workshops on conducting?
Yes.
And then do they audition to come to you?
Yes. Well, it all depends. In workshops, of course, there is a questionnaire that we send out to find out exactly where they are, what instrument they play. But I taught at Juilliard for many years.
Yes, I know. Is that what you taught, conducting?
Yes.
Or other things as well?
Yes, I taught conducting. Well, I also taught chamber music. I was the first assistant ever to the Juilliard Quartet. So I taught that, and I taught this really weird course called Orchestral Music for the Harp at 9 in the morning on Monday. Yeah. 9 in the morning on Monday. So all these poor harpists were all bleary-eyed. And
were there a lot of harpists? Are there a lot?
Yeah, sure. Sure, but they have a wonderful teacher at Juilliard.
But they have to, like, drag that big instrument around.
Well, there used to be one right there, you know,
yes,
for their use.
But in an orchestra, I always think, how do they bring it? They have to bring their own, don't they?
Usually they have a big truck.
You talked about teaching that new class at Juilliard. You also started a series at the Getty.
Well, yes, I was asked by the director then to create the very first. Well, first of all, I conducted the opening ceremonies.
Yes, that's what I was going to ask you about. And what was it? Did you have an orchestra?
Yeah, it was the Young Musicians Foundation, I believe.
Oh.
And so we did Copeland Outdoor Overture and a whole bunch of other stuff. But also, they asked me to do the very first set of classical music based on the Greek ideal. And there were 6 different programs for that. That was
So
fun.
you started a series there.
Right.
And they really had never even thought about that, I think, until you came
Well, they just
and did the opening ceremony.
Correct.
Well, besides being the artistic director and the conductor and teaching conducting classes, you were born and raised in Mexico City.
Yes.
Therefore, Jorge, Jorge or George. But you went back there and you created a festival.
Well,
A musical festival.
no, I was asked actually to conduct the really great orchestra there, shall I say it in Spanish? Orquesta Filarmónica de la Ciudad de México.
This the orchestra of the city of the state of Mexico.
No, the city.
The city of Mexico City. But did you remember anything when you went back? That's what I was wondering.
You mean in terms of speaking Spanish?
Of everything.
Well, yeah. I mean, I went back every year when I was in high school.
Oh, you did?
I just passed, on your way to this studio, my old stomping grounds at the military school at the corner of Melrose and Wilcox.
Oh, what was
That
the
was
name
Black
of that?
Fox Military
You
Institute.
went to school there?
I was there for 6 years.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. And so it's a beautiful street.
It is. And after Black Fox, where did you go?
Juilliard.
Oh, you went right to Juilliard.
Yeah, because, Gregor Piatigorsky, the fantastic cellist, that great cellist, his son went to the military school.
And his daughter went to Westlake with me.
So you knew Jefta.
Jefta.
I had to take her to dances.
Is that right?
She was much taller than I was,
She was
and still is,
at
probably.
Westlake. So I probably met you then.
And my sister went to Westlake also.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah.
But Mrs. Piatigorsky just passed away.
I know that. She was an incredibly wonderful woman and, of course, world-class chess player.
And into her hundreds. She was 100
Amazing.
or something. I know.
Yeah.
I just started reading her memoir, which she had written in the 80s.
Really?
Yeah. So, it
So
was
there's
very,
20 years of secrets.
there's a lot of secrets before she started playing chess. And she was renowned in everything that she wanted to do. She became a star
Yeah.
at what she was doing because she was very, very...
Accomplished.
and dedicated.
Yeah.
Yeah. She wanted to prove she could do things,
Yeah.
which I think is what a conductor would want to do. When you have students coming, they probably want to prove that they can do more than play the violin or the clarinet or whatever.
Well, a lot of people go into conducting for many different reasons. Some of them feel that their instrument is not enough color for their musical ideas. Some other ones go in there because it'll make them famous.
Famous conductor, because there aren't that many conductors, are there?
Oh, there are too many.
But I mean, not like philharmonic play. There's like hundreds in an orchestra, right?
Right, right.
And so you need one person.
Well, there's always somebody in the orchestra that thinks they can do better than you.
And did they tell you so?
Sometimes.
That was the interesting thing the other day. I heard somebody saying that all you need is a good orchestra. What does the conductor do?
Well, the conductor is like a coach. First of all, the body itself sends out energy, and the energy is then reflected. Have you ever sat and listened to somebody give a speech and you fall asleep?
Yes.
Because there's no energy.
Is that it?
Right. But if you get somebody really energetic, you all of a sudden discover that you're pulled into their orbit.
Well, I've seen you on the podium, and you are dynamic, and that's part of what you're teaching.
Well, I try to make my gestures specific to the sound. So if, for example, one of the things...
To the music that you've chosen?
Exactly. So one of the things I teach my students is what would you look like if you were on TV or you saw somebody on TV with no sound? Could you guess what the piece is that the person is conducting?
Really?
Yeah.
And you could
You
do
should be
that?
able to
You
do
should
that.
be able to do that?
Absolutely.
Oh, wow. That's really knowing your music.
Well, that's really showing the music.
We talked about Piatigorsky, but you did study with William Schumann and Leonard Bernstein.
Well, William Schumann was the president of Juilliard when I first went there as a student,
Oh,
fresh,
he was.
fresh out of
High school.
yeah, military school. And he was the first president of Lincoln Center.
Oh, I didn't realize
And
that.
so I was there when he announced to the faculty that they were building a brand new arts center. So I was there at the very beginning. And he was a really wonderful, what's the word, mentor.
Oh, he did. What did he teach you to give back to the
Well,
community?
he didn't teach me anything because he was not teaching at that time.
But I mean, as you watched him, what did you learn
Well,
from him?
one of the things I learned, he once recommended me to audition to be assistant conductor at a major orchestra. And he gave me a very strong recommendation. And so I went, took the audition, turned the job down, but never reported back to him. So he taught me, when somebody recommends you, you always have to come back and inform them and thank them.
Keep them
That
in
was
the
a
loop.
very good
And it
good
is
lesson.
important, isn't it? Leonard Bernstein also, you
Yes.
knew him, you worked.
Yes, I went to, what happened is that Piatigorsky sent me when I was between my junior and senior years in military school, sent me to Tanglewood on a scholarship. And that was the year that Koussevitzky died. Koussevitzky died in April or May of '51. And so by the time I got to Tanglewood, Leonard Bernstein had been named director of the Tanglewood Festival.
Oh, how fantastic.
And that's how I met him.
That's fantastic.
And that's how I learned to play the viola, because he got married at the end of that summer and took his honeymoon in Cuernavaca in Mexico, in the home of Hungarian friends of ours. And I called him up sometime when I got home for Christmas, and he says, hey, why don't you get a group together and let's play the Schumann Quintet. But I couldn't find a viola player.
So you had to
So I had to borrow a viola and learn to play the clef.
Is that right?
Yeah. No,
But from violin, was
from
it
violin
easier?
to, yeah, I mean, it's like playing alto saxophone
Yeah.
to tenor saxophone. The
Yeah.
fingerings are the same, just the breath is different.
You've taught us so much about that breath, but also, I think talking about Bernstein and talking about Schumann, you were a young person, and
You mean I'm not now?
You still are a young person, but you give back. You're interested in young composers.
And conductors and
And-
musicians, yeah, because I was given a lot.
You
Leonard Bernstein.
conduct new music. That's
Yes.
difficult, isn't it?
Well, everything is difficult. Everything is
You
difficult.
conduct opera. That's difficult.
That's also
too.
difficult. The question with new music is that I was for 4 years, well, first of all, I was conductor of the Louisville Orchestra, and I pronounce it correctly. It's Louisville.
Louisville.
Louisville. It's F-U-L-L, V-U-L-L. Louisville.
I said it the way we say it in California, Louisville.
Yes,
but
no,
it's
no.
Louisville.
You would be thrown out of town if they heard you. So there, they had a beautiful program called First Edition Records, which is they first commissioned composers from all over the world to write music that was performed and recorded. No orchestra in the world was doing that at that time, which was in the early 50s. I inherited that program, but I was no longer connected to the money, so I had to find music. It was called First Edition Records, music that had never been recorded before. And so I did 6 records a year for 12 years.
Wow. So that was all new music.
All music never before recorded.
All new music. Well, before we leave, tell me one really quick. You conducted the opera for David Hockney. He did the sets.
Yes.
Rake's Progress.
It was Stravinsky's
Rake's
Progress. And I have a picture of the curtain that he created because my name was
Oh, was it on there?
Yeah,
Did he
so
write it in?
He wrote it in, so I was very happy to have that.
We're so happy you came to talk to us
Thank
today.
you very, very much.
Thanks,
Joan.
George. Thanks. Don't go away. We'll be right back with actress Judy Jean Berns. Joan Quinn, and welcome back to the Joan Quinn Profiles. We're here at Duke and Duke, the art gallery in West Hollywood, and the work on the set is by my old friend Peter Schlesinger, who is a great ceramist and a terrific sculptor. So, I'm here with actress Judy Jean Berns, who was born in New Orleans and raised around the world as the family traveled with her father, who was an Annapolis Naval Academy graduate. She studied at Northwestern University and the Pasadena Playhouse. You've seen her on TV and in such classics as LA Law, St. Elsewhere, CSI, on stages across America, and in many, many films. Did the acting bite you when you were on your travels?
It seemed to have bitten very big. I remember the first play my mother took me to was, we were in Germany, and it was My Sister Eileen. It was on the base, an amateur production, and I was stage struck from then on.
Is that right?
Absolutely.
So it did. So traveling around the world had its good points.
Surprisingly enough, a lot of actors come from a background like this.
And do they, is it because there's acting on the base, or
No,
or the
I think
cities?
it's because it's the newness of it all. You're always starting over with something new.
Oh, you go somewhere.
Yeah, you're always, and there's something about the life as an actor that is very similar to that.
Oh,
I think that's what it is.
But does it pull, it gives you a place to go also when you start new? When you're going to a new city, you've already got a basis.
Right, it gives you something to go to, absolutely.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, did you like stage or TV?
I think stage is my favorite.
I think so too, because you've done so
Yeah.
much stage. Was that your first training?
Yes,
And
yes.
and you trained with Kenneth McMillan.
I adored Kenneth McMillan.
What
Yes.
was he teaching?
Why was he teaching?
What
oh,
was
what?
he teaching? Yeah.
He
I
was,
always thought he was in the
he was a
ballet, opera.
Oh, no, not
everything.
that Kenneth McMillan. That's another one.
Okay.
This is a Kenneth McMillan who's a magnificent actor. He's passed on, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you for
But,
clarifying.
yeah, there are two of them. Yeah, one's a Mac and one's a Mick, I think. He's a Mick.
Oh, okay. So he was training.
He was training. It was just, we had such fun. Our classes would go, we'd start at 7 o'clock in the evening and sometimes go till 5 o'clock the next morning, believe it or not.
Is that right?
And then we'd all go out and have breakfast.
Oh, they were big classes then? Or, I mean, they
Fairly
were-
large, yeah. It was kind of amazing.
And was it the same kind of training that you got at the Pasadena Playhouse?
Everything's a little different, you know? I think what I learned from Ken was the joy of performing, you know?
Sounds like it, like you were like all together.
And he was an actor, a successful actor. He did not have to teach. You know, a lot of people have to teach because they're not getting work, you know?
In between, right?
He just did it because he loved it. So, yeah, it was wonderful.
And you also trained with Peggy Fury,
Peggy
whom
Fury.
I knew.
And you know, of course,
Wonderful.
Yeah, I adored Peggy too. She was, she's mentioned several times in the book and in the play as Susan Traylor's mother.
Oh, yes.
And part of my dedication of doing this role is to her, to Susan Traylor's mother.
Is that right?
Yeah, I just got a chill.
Yes, and Susan Traylor's still working.
Absolutely, and was Quintana Rue's very best friend.
Oh, is
from
that-
the time they were children in kindergarten.
Oh, you know what? I
Yeah.
probably knew that, but forgot. So let's talk about that play right now, because you're
Yeah.
making reference to it.
Yeah. The play is a little different from the book. The book is, of course, an astonishing piece of work.
Tell us what it is.
It's The Year of Magical Thinking, and it was written, she began making notes for it a few months after her husband, John Donne, who a wonderful writer, and her partner, and both for writing and in marriage for 40 years, died very unexpectedly, very suddenly one night at the dinner table.
This is Joan Didion we're talking
Joan
about.
Didion, yes.
And
yes.
she lived in Los Angeles, and
Malibu, Brentwood. They even lived on Franklin somewhere, I understand, in Hollywood.
so obviously the daughter, Quintana Rue, and Susan,
Susan Traylor. I think
Traylor.
they met in Malibu because I know that's where Peggy lived.
and I think they went to Westlake
They
together.
went to Westlake together. I know.
It's just like such a thing coming back. Joan Didion is a fantastic writer.
Oh, she's phenomenal.
Very, very thin, and she hones and edits that work down the
Yeah.
same way, doesn't she?
She does.
It reflects what she's doing.
She's apparently, I have never met her in person. I hope I will someday.
Yes.
But she's very tiny, very, very thin,
Right.
looking very frail, but is a strong, strong, strong spirit.
Very
and
strong.
her writing is like that, because her writing is very spare, but very powerful.
Exactly.
You know?
She edits things down
Yeah.
to like 3 or 4 words, and those 3 or 4 words are all you need.
Exactly.
We talked about all of your coaches. Did they help you get acting jobs? Or do
No.
you think, no. Do you go back when
I
you're doing
wish.
a role like this? Do you go back and think about what they taught you?
Well, oh, absolutely. I still have notebooks that I kept from those days. I had lots of notes from Peggy. Peggy was kind of an amazing teacher, too. But all my coaches, the ones I liked the best, they're all passed on, unfortunately.
I know, unfortunately. You're working with Bright Eyes Production.
Yes.
And,
Again.
Can you tell us just a little bit. There's a certain sensibility about what they put on. And it seems like, I don't know, kind of serious and yet very accessible.
I guess they did. They also did The Last 5 Years, though, which is a musical, but
Yes,
a serious musical.
Yeah.
But they like to do things that are not overdone, that are fresh and new. The first show I did with them was The Busy World is Hushed, which had been done off-Broadway with Jill Clayburgh in the role that I played. I don't think it had ever been done here.
Where is the theater located?
Wherever we can get a space.
That's what
We don't
it
have
is.
our own space.
So it's a company.
No,
It's not
although
a
Bill
company?
has tended to use some of the same people again and again.
I noticed that. Bill
But
Hemmer.
we're not a company per
right?
se.
We're talking about Bill Hemmer.
Bill Hemmer,
who's
exactly.
the principal at Bright Eyes
Right.
Production. One of the things that I noticed, you've mentioned a couple of musicals and some other serious drama, but Yasmin Riza's, Yasmina Riza, The Unexpected Man.
Yes.
You were in that?
We did that a couple of years ago, and yeah, that was done, where did we do that? My gosh. Oh, with the Lounge. The Lounge
it's the
2,
Lounge.
I think it was.
That's a lovely little
yeah,
theater.
it is nice.
But that's a fabulous role.
It
You
is.
have to
I've
play...
had wonderful roles since I hooked up with Bright Eyes Productions.
Tell us a little bit about her. She's on the train.
Oh, she's a French woman. Well, the play is about 2 people sitting on a train. One is a famous writer. Another is a woman who's coming from a funeral and going home. And it's all their inner monologues about each other, noticing each other. She is a fan of his, so he doesn't know
knew who
he
he
is.
was, right?
She knew who he was,
Yeah.
and she's just dying to talk to him, but is afraid to. There's only at the very end they speak together for just a few moments.
You
but,
kind of
yeah.
think, to me, when I saw it in London, you kind of think that they really knew each other, that they were kind of interacting, they were playing a game.
The thing is, it's in our production too. What's wonderful about her writing is it's whatever you think it is.
That's what I love about it.
Because people said, did they even really meet on this train?
Right.
Was it all in their minds? Did they
Right.
know each other? So all of that is kind of left up to,
Right.
what you get out of it, which is kind of wonderful.
I think it's great.
know?
And it puts a lot on the
Yeah.
actress and on the actors. The other thing, you got a Best Actress award at the Victory Theater for Kimberly and Kimberly
Kimberly.
Akimbo, right?
Yes.
And what was that about?
That was so much fun. That was about a 16-year-old girl who has this horrible disease where she ages very rapidly. So it's played by a woman in her 60s.
So do you go back?
So what you get to do is dress like a teenager, feel like a teenager. She gets her first kiss.
Do you wear a wig?
No, I had short gray hair.
Oh,
and,
you did?
Punk style,
Oh,
and
cute.
just cool earrings and cool little tops and jeans and stuff. And
And it went on and on, didn't it?
We closed and then we reopened it, and it ran for nearly a year. It was a wonderful, wonderful time. Yeah.
Well, this role that you're playing in, I'm getting all these little roles
Yeah.
from you so that I can get back to the Year of Magical Thinking,
Yeah.
which is what Joan, did she actually do it on stage? Who did it?
Vanessa Redgrave
Oh, Vanessa Redgrave did it.
initially on Broadway.
I couldn't remember
Yeah.
who did it because I didn't think,
Yeah.
I know Joan Didion has read a lot of her work and
Yes.
stood in front of people, but I didn't know if she did
She
that.
did not play it. In fact, she said, that's not me up there. But it is and it isn't. I mean, it's her words, it's her story, but it's such a universal theme. And the play actually incorporates the death of Quintana as well as the death of John, because that happened, you know, months later after the book was published.
Who's directing you?
Our director is David Robinson, who also directed The Unexpected Man, and who is a wonderful, I think, in my estimation, an absolutely wonderful, astute director.
And how do you interpret it? You're up there alone then on stage, right?
Yes, indeed.
Is it scary?
It's terrifying.
What about the lighting? Does the lighting help you?
We haven't gotten to that part yet.
Is there any music involved?
There'll be some, I think, but it's going to be pretty bare bones. We've been trying to get this play, Bill and I, for, I think maybe 3 years. We've been requesting the rights. They kept denying them to us. Our thought was that they probably wanted a major production here in Los Angeles, you know, like at the Taper or something like that, with a named person. So they finally, that never happened. So they finally gave us the rights, and we're going to be doing it in a very intimate setting, which I think is going to work very well for the play.
I think it has to be intimate. If
Yeah.
you've read the book,
Yeah.
you want to sit by yourself and cry.
Yeah.
And if you're doing in the theater, you want to be with the actor who's telling the story.
Well, that's the advantage of doing it in the kind of intimate setting we're going to be doing it in. I mean, I think had Miss Redgrave come here to do it, they probably would have put her in the Amundsen, you know?
Yeah, which doesn't work.
You'd be way up here, and I mean, it's hard. I mean, but of course people go to see her because she's magnificent.
Exactly.
But this will be a different take, because it will be more intimate. I'll be able to look people right in the eyes and talk to them.
When you talk about her daughter or about the episodes that go on, do you change your voice? Do you? No, you just you don't try to.
I don't try to talk
whatever.
like Joan. No, she has kind of a. Perhaps if I were Meryl Streep, but I'm not. She has a very distinctive, monotone-ish kind of voice, though, which I think would be kind of hard to listen to on stage for an hour and a half.
I see.
But her voice is in her words, you know.
Exactly. So you have to listen to the way you're delivering it. Will you be sitting, standing?
Yeah, both.
Both. Moving. You know, we talked about all the roles that you've done, and you've had so many roles. When you get on stage and you're up there by yourself, do any of those other things kind of like slip in and you go, oh, I'm saying the wrong lines?
Gosh, I sure hope not.
You haven't had that.
If that happened, it'd be time to pack it in.
But if I called on you to say something from, say, The Unexpected Man, could you remember a line from that?
You know, it's an odd thing. Once it's over, you forget it. It's like the computer up here only has so much room, and you've got to keep what's current up there. I mean, there's certain things, like years ago I did Blanche, and of course you remember lines from, you know, I've always depended on the kindness of strangers and things like that. But no, I can't remember anything from The Unexpected Man.
So when you're on stage, you're doing that play.
Yes, yes.
And that's what we're going to see.
Yes,
so
I hope
I'm
so.
Glad that you came to talk to us about it today.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate
and
it, Joan.
Thanks for watching the Joan Quinn Profiles. Keep writing to JAQUINN1@AOL.com and 777 South Figueroa, 44th floor, 90017. And we thank Duke and Duke for letting us come to their gallery today.